Good evening and a very warm welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us here on the Game of Two Halves podcast, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show. It is episode 113, and geez, it's going to be a good show tonight. I tell you what, lots and lots of great guests on tonight. It's going to be the global game and then the local game. The global game will be going all the way over to the UK, and we'll be touching base with Danny Clarke from the BOLTON Wanderers. And then for the local game element of the show, later on in about half an hour's time, we'll be catching up with Dale Harris, the head coach of Barwon Soccer Club. My name's Tonchi Prusak. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you here today. And I look forward to your company over the next 60 minutes or so. And be a part of tonight's show. Be an active part of tonight's show in the comments section. And if you've got any questions for any of our guests tonight, by all means, feel free to drop a question there as well. We'll be covering the local scene very, very comprehensively a bit later on, both the NPL competitions, the VPLW, the men's and women's state league competitions, as well as the local Geelong Region women's and the Geelong Region men's competitions as well. A lot to get through over the next 60 or so minutes, and a big, big shout out to our major sponsor this year, Euro football star Ray Wood from Brisbane. He's the director, and we will be speaking to Ray over the next few weeks, all the way from Istanbul, Turkey, where the UEFA Champions League finals will be held this year. We'll be coming live from over there, or crossing live over there over the coming weeks. But in the meantime, there's so much to get through, starting off with tonight's show, folks. So don't go away. We'll be with you very, very shortly after this very, very short break with the global game and our very, very special guest on tonight's episode of the global game, the head coach of the English Football League One side, BOLTON Wanderers International Football Program, and the Academy coach. His name is Danny Clarke, and he'll be joining us shortly after this break. Welcome to the global game part of our podcast, the Game of Two Halves, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome to the show all the way from Bolton in England. He is the Academy coach of the BOLTON Wanderers, Danny Clarke. Danny, welcome to the show, and great to have you on.
Thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to coming on and joining you on the show.
Fantastic, mate. Well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about Danny Clarke. Tell us a bit about the Danny Clarke story and your footballing career so far, and how you managed to get into the Bolton Academy system.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough to go through the system at Bolton. Spent a bit of time in the academy as a player, to the point where I actually got offered to go, when coming out of the system as a player, I got offered the chance to come through a coaching education scheme, where I went through coaching, teaching and instructing football for a 2-year program, which was covered through the club, to the point where I gained my qualifications up to a level 2. Went over to live in Spain, in Tenerife, and I lived in Egypt, in Sharm el Sheikh, coaching for the club out there. And then when I returned, I ended up looking after various programs in India, Colombia, going out to the likes of South Africa, and worked my way up to get my B license, to the point of joining the academy. I've been at the academy now. I've been at the football club for over 10 years, but I've been in the academy system for about 7 years now. And since being in the academy, I've worked across all the various age groups, from the foundation phase to the youth phase. Last 3 or 4 years, I've been working with the under-16s, and now currently I'm the lead foundation phase coach, looking after the 9s, 10s, 11s, and 12s, and also head up the international football program at Bolton.
Let's talk about that international football program. That's something quite innovative, quite different. And is that something that sets the Bolton Academy apart from a lot of the other academies around that area?
Yeah, what we have is quite unique in regards to what we offer international teams wanting to come over and gain a taste of what it's like to be in England and live the experience. The reason that we have that is because we have our own hotel attached to the stadium, that's built into the actual ground, and our training base is a walking distance from the hotel. What we offer is the players to eat, sleep, and train like what we offer to the players. And it's also giving them the opportunity to see how our academy teams train, to play against our feeder squads, our development squads, to gauge where they're at compared to the current level that we've got in England at this moment in time. And then it's acclimatizing to the various things, whether that be the 7 seasons you can get in one day, from sun and rain and wind.
Sounds like Victoria.
Yeah. To then especially over in England, the physical demand of the game.
Yeah.
It's a high demand that we expect. We want to produce highly tuned athletes, and that's both on and off the ball. So that's a good insight for a lot of teams that come over, stay in the hotel. You find that after 2 or 3 days and a fixture, the players are starting to feel it in the legs and the intensity that's how hard we push the boys when they're here.
Yeah, so look, getting back to the Bolton Academy itself. Now, for those that are not in the know, Bolton is part of the Greater Manchester area. So in that small pocket, that small enclave, if you like, there's so much competition, obviously, from some of the bigger clubs like Liverpool, Everton, Manchester City, Manchester United, but then also championship clubs and League One clubs and what you're not. How does Bolton Wanderers then compete with those big clubs? What's your point of difference? What makes you really stand apart from all those other, do we call them more glamorous clubs, the bigger clubs?
When you talk about the bigger dogs in the environment that we're in, we're in a hotbed of football. You look at the northwest in England, and we've got the likes of Liverpool, Everton, Manchester United, Manchester City. You come away from that, and then you've still got other clubs that are in and around our area, from Wigan, Preston, Blackpool, Oldham, Rochdale, and then Bolton, who've currently now pushed ourselves forward as a club, and the first team are doing extremely well. But as an academy, we try to make sure that we can offer the right environment for the players to enhance them and push it at the right time. Make sure we set challenging environments, but kind of run off a philosophy that's linked into the club badge. We set certain things. We want, if we went off the BWFC, we asked the players to be brilliant at the basics. We want winners with a winning in a winning environment. We want players to be fitter, faster, and stronger. We want players to be confident with and without the ball. And I think if we can embed that structure into the players from the moment they arrive through the gates, the moment they leave, every time they spend time with us, we can try and work into the philosophy of as they get older, how we can set the intensity off that structure.
Yeah, here in Australia, and particularly here in Geelong, there's a lot of talented young players. We know we've got one boy from Geelong who's now currently at the Steve Gerrard Academy, and we spoke to him last week, young Ben Gilic. But there's a lot of young players, a lot of young talent here. But the academy system is very much in its infancy stage here, mainly with the A-League clubs, and probably the nearest one is Western United. But other clubs just do their own thing and produce a lot of good players. And North Geelong, Geelong, the two NPL clubs that have done really well in the boys side of things. The Geelong Galaxy in the women's side of things. What's your advice, or what's your suggestion to young players now coming up through the ranks, so the 12, 13, 14-year-olds, prior to getting to that kind of, well, here we call it the pre-NPL phase, when the kids start playing at NPL level? What do they need to do as far as their own football, the development of their own football? What's the main thing in that kind of 12 to 14 age group that they should be focusing on?
Yeah, between 12 to 14, there's quite a few things you've got to try and manage in regards to that age group, because they're still going through growth spurts. Some players are going to 6 foot plus, some players are still around the short of 5 foot. The physicalities of each individual is different. And the one thing we want to make sure we do is we manage the individual, because in the environment we're at, as much as we want to set a good one as a team, we are focused on developing individuals. And each one will have a different journey to the next player stood next to them. And we don't expect them to be on the same journey, but again, at that age group, it's about looking after yourself. It's the dedication, it's the focus, it's the drive. It's important that when they are with us and they come through that gate, they are like a sponge. We want them to absorb as much information that we give them and apply it when it goes into games and in training programs. It's a focus. It is a dedication. You've got to make sure that you are dedicated to the program we look to set for you, because the moment you take your foot off the gas is the moment that other players around you will start taking steps ahead.
The Game of Two Halves podcast, we're speaking to the head football coach of English Football League One side BOLTON Wanderers International Football Program, and the academy coach, Danny Clarke. Danny, you've gone to a lot of different countries, and we'll touch a little bit later on about coming to Australia a little bit later on, actually in a few weeks' time, to be honest. But you've coached, you've had the opportunity to represent Bolton at various coaching clinics and camps and whatnot in India, in America, the United States, in South Africa, Colombia, Spain, Tenerife, Egypt, as well as Australia, obviously. You must have seen a lot of different influences and a lot of different styles. And as a coach, do you adapt to all of that, or do the players generally adapt to the different coaches that come around to these clinics?
I think there's various things we have to adapt to as coaches. There's, for example, we go out to Colombia and there is a language barrier. So making sure that we can get our messages across of how we would structure a session with the detail and content that we include in that is really important. But that doesn't change across how we deliver our sessions. We want to make sure that the players that come onto our programs are getting a good insight of how we work as a football club. That's why they come to the sessions. That's why they come to these programs that we deliver overseas. It's like having us coming out and delivering in your back garden to get a real insight of the detail that we give out, to then hopefully get an opportunity to come back to Bolton Wanderers and see how we do it, but the environment that we have. So yes, we do have to adapt in various countries, because the climate can be completely different from being extremely hot in Australia and South Africa and Colombia, or even America. But then sometimes we were out in Philadelphia and we did the NSCAA, which is the coaches convention.
Yep.
And it was snowing outside, it was freezing, and we had to adapt to bringing the sessions indoor. And again, your pitch sizes. I think the first ever international job I went on was going to Bangalore in India, and you're used to working on lush carpet, grass pitches, and it was a mud pitch. But it's how we make sure that the players that are coming onto the program come away from each session and go, I can develop on that information. I can various things that we can do through football.
Yeah.
And it's a sport that we all love. It's a sport that we all enjoy. And we will work with any player of any ability, providing that they have the right attitude. That's one thing that we try to offer. And it's down to us to try and improve them individuals and make them better. But there's so many things you can learn through football, whether that's teamwork, effective communication, punctuality, respect. And these are things that effort, dedication, these are things that we expect to deliver in the programs, no matter what the surface, no matter what the climate, no matter what the environment. We as coaches can set that, and that's what we look to do from the starting point. And then from there on in, we look to include our BWFC structure into the systems.
Well, speaking of structure, let's talk about the actual academy, and also let's talk about the international football program. And how is it all? First of all, how is it all structured, and what's a typical kind of agenda or weekly agenda for a participant of either or of these two programs? First of all, let's talk about the academy. How is that structured at Bolton?
Yeah, so the academy, we have 3 different phases. We have a foundation phase. So before that, we have a pre-academy, so that players 7s and 8s can come into a training program. We can cast an eye over the best local talent in the area to start seeing who's ready to take part into academy football. Then the foundation phases, which is 9 to 12s, which is players getting the fundamentals of the expectations set from us as coaches, and players that will start to gain an understanding of what we expect as a club from an individual as a player. Then you've got the youth phase, which is the 13s to 16s going into the 18s. So the 13s to 16s, that's getting them the tactical information, the physical development over with the S&C, the strength and conditioning. And we can start to look at these individuals and go, are they ready? Do they tactically understand? Are they physically developed and ready for the next stage of the youth phase? From 16s, they look to get a scholarship. So we sit down and we decide players that will do the education with the program. That'll be a full-time training program. So first year scholar and second year scholar. And they will play in the under 18s program on a Saturday morning, training 4 or 5 times a week. Usually do a full-time education on a Wednesday. And we have to make sure that we back what we do up on the pitch with the education we look to offer in the classroom, which is really important to us as a club, and for what we offer to the individuals and the players that come and sign with us. And then from there, you go into the professional phase. So what they've recently done now into the club is they've introduced a B team, which is a link between the youth team and the first team, which is 23s football. And what it does is it allows the players at 18, it's not as big of a jump to go straight into the first team, and it allows us to develop and nurture these players a little bit closer, so that the demands aren't too much for when they do go into that environment.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. But before we talk about the actual international program, though, let's stay on the academy for a bit. Sort of ballpark figures over the last maybe 5 or so years, or 10 years or so. What's been the success rate of getting players coming through the pathway program at Bolton Wanderers and eventually making it through to the first team?
So we actually had a score just before COVID hit, and I'm probably easier going before COVID because there's been a lot of restrictions on the pandemic that caused worldwide. But in relation to prior COVID, we were graded in regard to come to league football. We were actually first in players that have gone on, not only play for Bolton Wanderers, but come out the academy and go play professional football. When the Premiership teams came into that as well, so that was Championship, League 1 and League 2. But when the Premiership teams came into that, Bolton actually fell second. And the Premiership team that beat us for production of players was actually Chelsea. Chelsea have got a scheme and a system where they register the players and they send them out on loan, which is a great experience for the boys to develop open age football, men's football. But in regards to our academy and how we look to develop the players, obviously we've had a lot of success from individuals such as Zach Clough, who came through our academy system from under 9. He went on to then sign for Nottingham Forest, and then from there, I think he's now currently out in Australia playing at Adelaide. So Zach was a great player for us. We've got Rob Holding, who's now currently playing at Arsenal and been there for quite a few years now, doing extremely well. And then Josh Vella, who's recently just come back to Bolton. He was playing against us, but has gone on to play for Shrewsbury. And Dennis Politic, another one who he went out to sign for a Serie A team, now playing league, but now he's on loan back at Port Vale. We'll go back out to the Serie A team. So in regards to the production of players, we've done extremely well, and probably a good one for us as well. But unfortunately, he's playing against us for Barnsley in the playoffs. But Luca Cannell, I actually had Luca at under 15s.
Yeah,
was always one that wanted to set the tempo high and train with a good intensity and demand better from his teammates so that he could get better from himself. And Luca actually went on to go to play for Celtic, signed for Celtic, and when his contract expired, he then went and signed for Barnsley and has recently just won the Player of the Season award for Barnsley. And then you've got other players such as Ronan Darcy. Ronan's doing extremely well at Swindon Town. So our production of players that come through the scheme at the academy, whether it goes on to play our football club or other professional football clubs, we set the right environment to allow individuals, providing their focus and dedication is there, they give themselves the best chance.
Brilliant. That is great to hear, mate. We're going to take a very, very short break. Look, when we return, we'll talk about the Australian connection with the BOLTON Wanderers Academy and the Euro Football Star as well. And there was a visit that was done last year. And then also there's going to be a visit by yourself to Brisbane next month. We'll talk a little bit later about that straight after this break, folks. Don't go away. It's the Game of Two Halves podcast. It is the Global Game segment of the show. Welcome back to the Game of Two Halves podcast. It is the Global Game segment, and we're speaking to Danny, who is the head coach of the BOLTON Wanderers International Football Program and also part of the players. We're looking at players and potential players that could be part of the academy at whichever phase, I suppose. What sort of qualities are you looking for in a player of such?
Yeah, so when we watch individuals, we want to know they're competent in receiving the ball, being able to handle the ball in tight areas with both feet, being able to understand good decision making and retain high percentage of the ball. People expect some scouts or coaches to come out and expect players to go and beat 4 or 5 players and score a worldly goal, but sometimes we're just looking for players to be able to do the basics but do it extremely well and play.
Oh, looks like we've just lost. Looks like we may just have lost Danny Clarke from the Bolton Wanderers, the wonders of modern technology. We're going to take a short break, folks. When we return, hopefully we'll reconnect there with Danny. Who's obviously some sort of technical glitches there. Folks, don't go away. A little bit later on in the show, we're going to be speaking to Barwon Soccer Club senior men's head coach, Dale Harris. He's just entered the green room. He'll be very, very shortly joining us, and we'll also be taking a comprehensive look at the weekend that was in football. Don't go away. It's a Game of Two Halves podcast powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Welcome back to the Game of Two Halves podcast. We were speaking with our guest all the way from the UK, Danny Clarke from BOLTON Wanderers. He's the head coach of the academy system over there and also heads the international football program for BOLTON Wanderers. Unfortunately, we seem to have lost him and we're going to try and get him back on deck. But in the meantime, we're going to now continue with the local game, and it's time now to look at the weekend that was. And we'll start off right up the top there with the NPL Victoria competition. It's reached its halfway mark, and North Geelong on the weekend came up against the might of South Melbourne at Lakeside Stadium. That was yesterday. The final score was 2-1 for South Melbourne, and I guess the scoreline doesn't really illustrate how dominant South Melbourne was. But in the end, 17-year-old Luke Živčić also scored in the 95th minute a consolation goal for the Warriors. And that means now at the halfway mark of the season, North Geelong are really struggling. They're second last. But this weekend is a big game. Round 14 clash at Alco Park. North Geelong Warriors taking on Bentley Greens, one of only two teams that they've managed to defeat this year. Next week also on Tuesday night, North Geelong will be coming up against St Albans in round 6 of the Australia Cup. So two very, very important games for North Geelong coming up over the next, 7 to 8 days. So as you can see, the ladder there, North Geelong currently in second last position at the halfway mark of the season. To NPL 3 Victoria, Geelong yesterday took on Melbourne Victory at Epping Stadium, and unfortunately came away with a 0-3 scoreline. In fact, the 10 men's teams this weekend, the Geelong men's teams, amongst the 10 teams, they could only score 9 goals, which is a bit of a bummer. But we can see there Geelong now currently in 8th position on the table. And as we speak, hopefully, we may have got our UK guest back on. And he's in the green room. When we say he's in the green room, that usually means he's ready to come on. So we're going to give it another go, and we're going to try and see if we can come back to or cross to Danny Clarke. There he is. We've got Danny all the way from the UK. Mate, I don't know what happened there. I think it was the wonders of our technology. The gremlins.
Apologies, I'm not sure what quite happened there, but I'm glad to get back on with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, mate, we were talking about the Australian connection. Last year we had an Australian team, part of the Euro Football Star contingent, if you like. They travelled over to the UK, and we've got a little bit of footage there, and we're going to show a little bit of that footage. This was the trip to the BOLTON Wanderers last year. Tell us a little bit about that, and how did that collaboration with a Euro Football Star come about?
Yeah, so with the boys coming over from Euro Football Star, it was great to look at getting the boys in to set the tempo of our training sessions and let them see what it is we look for in the players. And it was great to get to meet Ray as well. I've been speaking to Ray quite a long. We've got quite a few mutual friends, myself and Ray. And from there, we've looked to develop a relationship where we actually have a link in with Euro Football Star, with teams coming into Bolton and gaining this experience where they will get a full training program, a fixtures program, a stadium tour, which you can see the players taking part in now. And then we also look at offering the presentations in regards to the roles and responsibilities, position specific, that we give the individuals, and then anything from nutrition to player mindset to our playing philosophy that we try to focus on with the players.
There we could see the University of Bolton football stadium. How big is that? What's the capacity of the stadium?
Yeah, the capacity of the stadium is 28,500.
And it's regularly full, is it, for football?
Yeah, regularly. This season, considering it's been League One football, it's been very decent for the attendance, and that's down to the owners that have currently got in with the football club. They've took it in a great direction, and the club's always looking forward now, and it's an exciting project to be a part of.
Brilliant. Now, mate, you're heading down under very, very shortly. We know you're travelling to Brisbane. Tell us a little bit more about that. And if we're about 2 hours away from Brisbane, so not very close, but who knows, someone might be heading up to Queensland around about that time. Tell us a little bit about the 3-day camp that's going to be taking place in Brisbane.
Yeah, so while we're out in Brisbane, we're working closely with Euro Football Star, where we'll be looking to showcase our coaching program that we offer here at BOLTON Wanderers with the coaches that we have here at Bolton in the academy. And with that, we're going to give players a good insight. I believe with Ray and the decision of the Bolton coaches, we're looking at inviting one player back, all covered costs for being part of the program that visits England and coming back to Bolton. So a unique experience, a great opportunity for all players to be a part of a specific detailed program that myself and Ray work very closely together to make sure that we align our programs and make sure that what we offer is these players a unique, tailored experience that will suit their needs and give them a real good insight of what's expected to develop and become a better footballer.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Hopefully, down the track, we might be able to get you down to Geelong as well. And there may be, because I do hear there are some programs and whisperings that there may be different programs on offer down here in Geelong. But it'll be great to see you down here in our neck of the woods, Danny. But before we let you go, we did ask you just little bits of advice for budding young players and things like that. What about parents and coaches that have got, talented young kids, talented young players? What's the best way to encourage some of these kids without maybe suffocating them a little bit too much with expectation and pressure and things like that? We're talking the mental strength side of things. How do we develop that in aspiring young footballers?
I mean, for the younger kids, anything like the foundation phase, I look at 9s to 12s. The biggest thing is that the players they've got to be kids, the children. They've got to go and have fun. They've got to have the chance to interact with other children. Yes, they can do that through football, but it doesn't have to be solely focused through football. And we try and encourage them to do, at that age, multiple sports, but obviously have the main focus towards football. Yeah. I think to try and remain the pressure off them, it doesn't matter how good the player is. I think making sure that there's not too much of a focus on what they've got to look at achieving in the future. It's more about the player having fun, the player being able to enjoy himself and not making it a chore, but making it something we all start football as a hobby. That's the reason why we take part of it. And if it's exercise and the social side that we gain the benefits from, that's brilliant. And then if anything more comes, that's where we start to say to parents, well, the reason that you take them to these programs, to these clubs, is because you've got qualified coaches there that know how to tailor their sessions to develop your son or the players that you're close to. And it's really difficult to be able to get their messages across when a player is probably getting it from another area, another role model in their life, another person that they may look up to. So depending on the age, the first thing I'll say is let the children be a child. And then the second one is, don't let the focus come away from being fun. You've got to enjoy it. I mean, as soon as you start making mistakes, but you're not having fun, you're not learning. But if you make mistakes and you're still having fun, you learn from that because you're in an environment where you want to do it again. You want to be able to, there's no fear of trying it again. Whereas if you set an environment where these kids are scared of making mistakes or have a fear of trying something, we're not giving them the chance to develop and to learn. There's so many times that you can make a mistake in whatever you do. The chances are that you're not going to do it again if you don't think there's any pressure on trying to do it again.
Yeah, mate, we need to get you down to Geelong and doing a couple of coaching seminars for the coaches as well as for the players. It would be fantastic to have you down here. And I'm sure we'll have to have a chat with Ray Wood from Euro Football Star to try and facilitate that in the future. But in the meantime, all the very best with the Brisbane Clinic and also with everything there at BOLTON Wanderers, the Academy and the International Football Program. We'll be watching it from afar with great interest. Good on you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
That was, and if you would like to get in touch with Ray from Euro Football Star to find out more about some of the programs on offer from Euro Football Star, there's the just down there. There's the email address info@eurofootballstar.com. info@eurofootballstar.com. Folks, don't go away. We're going to be right back very, very shortly, and we will continue with the local game element, and we'll be looking at the men's state league competitions. Well, we're back here at the Game of Two Halves podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. It's time now to check out what's happening in the men's state league competitions. We start off with State League 1, and thank you very much to Santino Mamone for providing us with a little bit of this footage from the weekend's game between Corio and Yarraville. This game was played at Hume Reserve, and this is the first of our games that we're going to look at in the men's state league. Yarraville came to Corio, I think, in 5th position, and they were certainly looking to take all 3 points, but Corio did very, very well to keep the more highly fancied Yarraville at bay. The end result was a 1-1 scoreline for, pardon me, a 1-1 scoreline. It was a draw. Vedran Stojanovic scoring the goal there for Corio, and well done to Corio in being able to hold Yarraville at bay. Corio now are in third last position on 6 points. It's very, very tight at the bottom there in State League 1 competition. But look, a series of good results and anything could happen in that competition. This next week is going to be a tough one because in round 9, Altona City current league leaders, and well, they're league leaders by 4 points. They will entertain Corio at Kim Reserve. Now, that's on Saturday night, and that game is kicking off at 6 p.m. Over to State League 2. And, well, Geelong Rangers had a game that they would rather forget. They came up against Albion Rovers at Myers Reserve on Saturday and were on the wrong end of an 8-0 thumping, a big, big scoreline. And as Coach Troy Hardy said afterwards in the Geelong Advertiser today, it was reported, we just turn our focus now onto next week's game. So next week's game will be an away clash against Altona East Phoenix. That's at Paisley Park in Altona. That's going to be a tough one. Altona East are currently in second position on the competition standings, and they are really moving away from the rest of the pack. Last night on the Football Out West show, which is our sister podcast program, we spoke to Terry Antoniadis from Altona East Phoenix, and he's quite happy with the way the situation is unfolding at the moment at Altona East, and that's probably not what Geelong Rangers fans want to hear, but that is going to be the next point of, or the next assignment for the Geelong Rangers. Moving on to State League 4 now, we'll be talking to Barwon coach Dale Harris very, very shortly. He's ready to come on. But before we do that, let's have a look at some of the results played over the weekend in this particular division. Barwon did defeat Barnestoneworth United 3-1 away. Milton Bailey scoring 2 goals, and 17-year-old Will Mitchell also getting on the score sheet there for Barwon. For Surf Coast played Truganina Hornets, and they managed to get a 3-1 scoreline there at Banyul Warrior Reserve. 3 individual goal scorers all scoring for Surf Coast. We had Christian Mann getting on the score sheet, John Pikett and Sam Bickett as well. And then over at we had at Bell Park Sports Club, we had Bell Park taking on Laverton FC. Now, Laverton are always a tough team, an extraordinarily tough team at the best of times. Bell Park did very well to keep them at bay to just 2 goals, but Laverton are one of the teams that are really doing well at the moment in Men's State League 4, and we'll see one of the Laverton goals just after this. And then, as we said, the final game of that particular... Well, the other games as well. Keilor Wolves defeated Moonee Ponds United 2-1. Melbourne City and Moonee Valley Knights, they were held to a 0-0 draw, and Spring Hills defeated Gisborne 2-0. In State League 5, Lara United kept Wyndham 1-1, with Lockie Lazarich scoring that goal. And Surfside Waves lost to Melton Phoenix 0-1. Very constantly improving Surfside Waves side, but Deakin University Ducks, they had the bye. This is action from the Bell Park Sports Club on the weekend just gone by. Bell Park in the all-white, and Laverton FC in the red. We'll see the action here, and this is Laverton's second goal. From the edge of the penalty box, and it went in. It's now time for our second guest, and we're going to talk to State League 4 football, and we're going to bring on the coach of Barwon Soccer Club, a man who's very, very familiar to this show, this program, and it's an absolute pleasure for the first time in 2023 to have the coach of the Barwon Soccer Club senior men's team, Dale Harris, joining us here on the Game of Two Halves podcast. Dale, welcome to the show, and how are you? Oh, we can't hear your microphone. You need to switch your microphone on. Unfortunately, we can see you, but we just can't hear you, unfortunately. We got you there, Dale. And if we just, whilst we try and get Dale back on, we'll put the ladder up there. Laverton have now taken over top spot. Moonee Valley Knights in second spot. Geelong Wolves in third. Very, very close up the top of the competition standings there. And Surf Coast, they are the highest of the Geelong teams in State League 4 at the moment. They're in fourth position. Barwon have now jumped a couple of spots, and they find themselves in seventh spot with 10 points. So 3 wins, 1 draw, and 4 losses from their 8 games thus far. Bell Park, they are tucked right behind the Blue and Whites in 8th position. And then below that, we've got Barnestoneworth United, Spring Hills, Truganina, and Gisborne SC at the moment. But hopefully we've got Dale on the line. We saw him, we just couldn't hear him. Dale, are you there? It's in the settings. So we just have to change the audio there. So he can hear us. We just can't hear him, unfortunately. But we'll move along to the State League 5 ladder. The men's State League 5 ladder. Balmoral FC at the top, and they are unbeatable. 7 wins from 7 games. The highest of the Geelong-based teams is Lara United, who are in 5th spot at the moment. They're in with 14 points, 7 points behind the leaders. Deakin Uni Ducks in 8th position. They've got 6 points from their opening 7 games. And Surfside Waves, they've picked up a win and 2 draws. They are on 5 points at the moment, and they're doing really, really well. Really, really well at the moment. They're not on the bottom of the ladder, so hopefully they can manage to do. Have we got Dale now? Can we hear Dale? We still can't hear Dale at the moment, unfortunately. We're going to have to just soldier on. We've got a little bit of footage here of Barwon Soccer Club. And this was from about 4 weeks ago when they took on Gisborne, and it was a 1-0 win back on Saturday, the 15th of April. Barwon in their away kit in the maroon top, white shorts and white socks. And then we see a lovely goal, and possession was quite a feature of the play that Barwon have been renowned for this year. Moving along now we're going to go to look at the women's side of things, and we're going to go to the women's VPL, the Victorian Premier League. On the weekend, Geelong Galaxy took on KC Comets, the high-flying KC Comets, who were previously in second position. And look, the Geelong Galaxy girls, thanks to a 4-goal haul by Aya Saino, has managed to, this takes her season's tally to 12 goals this year. They defeated the KC Comets 4-0. Great result for Geelong Galaxy. They now move to a mid-table position, 4 wins and 4 losses from their 8 games. They're on 12 points, only 6 points behind the leading duo of Essendon Royals and Brunswick Juventus at this point. This weekend, on Sunday, they are away to Glen Waverley. Now, Glen Waverley have managed 7 losses from their 7 games, and you'd expect that now this would be Geelong Galaxy's 5th win of the season if all goes according to plan. Turning our attention now to Women's State League 1 competition, and this has been a really interesting division with the 3 Geelong teams at the moment. On the weekend, North Geelong away to Brunswick Zebras. Olivia Ortiz, the captain, she managed to score the solitary goal, and North Geelong came away with a 1-0 win, a very, very important win considering they were on the losing side the week prior to Lara United. Now, Lara United, they this week themselves lost to Mill Park 1-2. Izzy Wilkinson scoring Lara United's only goal. And the Geelong Rangers were at home to Keilor Park, and Keilor Park now, as a result of their 5-2 win over the Rangers, have leapfrogged about 3 or 4 teams, and they find themselves now in second spot on the competition standings. Jade Feeks, by the way, was the goal scorer for Geelong Rangers. She scored a brace. Now, this weekend, as we look at the ladder, firstly, North Geelong are in equal second spot, but by virtue of a much inferior goal difference, find themselves in third spot. So Bundoora United, 4 wins from 4 games. North Geelong will take on Bundoora United in a first versus third clash at Elco Park this Sunday. Kickoff is at 3 p.m. Lara United, who find themselves in fifth position, they will be taking on the Brunswick Zebras, who are in 7th position. That game will be at the earlier time of 2 p.m. on Sunday at Lara Recreation Reserve. And the Geelong Rangers, who find themselves at the moment in second last spot, they travel to Caroline Springs, George Cross, and they will go to City Vista Reserve this Sunday, where kickoff is at 3 p.m. So lots of football coming your way this weekend. Now we're going to try, hopefully, get Dale Harris back on the line. Dale, good evening, and how are you? Hello, Dale. Are you there? We can see that Dale's having all sorts of internet problems from his end. Very, very poor reception wherever the Dale is, but hopefully we'll be able to get him on very, very shortly. That is going to be the plan. Let's turn our attention to the local side of things, the Geelong region competition. First of all, let's go to the men's competition, and there we have the ladder for the Geelong region men's Division 1 competition. If we go through the results of round 4 on the weekend, it all started off on Friday night. We had 2 games there. FC Leopold hosted Barwon Heads at Estuary Reserve, a 3-2 win to the home side. FC Leopold getting all 3 points there. Their first win of the season, in fact, for the men in green. Across town at the Bell Park Sports Club, under the brand new lights there at Batesford, Bell Park took on Breakwater Eagles, and Bell Park have just kept on steamrolling everyone at the moment. They defeated Breakwater Eagles 5-1 to maintain their 100% record. 4 wins from 4 games. Mio Marinovic scored 2 goals. We had Harris Vrbovac also scored 1. Andrew Longo and Lachlan Santoro scoring as well. So that was a 5-1 win over the hapless Breakwater Eagles. On Sunday, we had 2 games. Surf Coast defeated Geelong Rangers at Banyulwarri Reserve. And then in the Battle of the Barwons, Barwon Blue defeated Barwon White 4-2. So if we look at those, the competition standings there, and it's great for the first time in many, many years that we've actually got anything other than just a 6-team competition. 9 teams in the elite local men's competition. Friday night sees FC Leopold hosting Barwon Blue, again at Estuary Reserve. Geelong Rangers Bell Park, I should say, make the short trip to nearby Geelong Rangers up at Myers Reserve. That's a Friday night game, so that should be an absolute beauty, that one. Armstrong United are at home to Barwon Heads. That's on Sunday at 3 p.m. at the Armstrong Creek Sporting Oval. And Barwon White host Breakwater Eagles at Grovedale Reserve also on Sunday. Surf Coast has the bye. Now it's time to talk the women's division. So if we look at the top half of the women's competition, let's first of all go through the results. So round 4 saw Surfside Waves destroy Corio Bay 8-0. Drysdale Soccer Club defeated Golden Plains in Bannockburn 4-2. Armstrong, and on Saturday, Armstrong United defeated Bellarine Sharks 4-0. Surf Coast drew with Deakin Ducks Black 2-all. Virtually a top of the table clash there. Then we had Geelong defeat FC Leopold 2-0. Barwon Heads were on the wrong end of a 10-1 scoreline against Bell Park. And then we also had Lara United defeat Deakin Ducks Gold 4-1. So if we look at the ladder there, Deakin Ducks on top at the moment with 10 points, followed by Surfside Waves, Bell Park, Drysdale, Armstrong United, Barwon, Lara United, and Geelong. And then the bottom end of the competition standings, Surf Coast at the moment, which is quite unusual. Last year's reigning champions. They've played one game less, but they've won one, drawn one, and lost one. Deakin Ducks Gold in 10th position. Then we've got Corio Bay, FC Leopold, Golden Plains Soccer Club, and Barwon Heads and Bellarine Sharks at the foot of the competition standings. If we move along to Red 5, the games that are this Friday night, we've got two games. Corio Bay hosting Armstrong United at Evans Reserve. Surfside Waves hosting Deakin Ducks Black at Shell Road Reserve. And that's on Friday night. That's at 7 p.m. So that's going to be an absolute doozy of a game. First versus second Friday night there at Shell Road Reserve. Kickoff is 7 p.m. for anyone in the area that would like to watch some top-class local football, local women's football. On Saturday, we've got 5 games. FC Leopold at home to Golden Plains Soccer Club at Estuary Reserve. That's at 1 p.m. Bellarine Sharks hosting Barwon Heads at Lake Reserve, also at 1 p.m. And Lara United playing host to Surf Coast at the Lara Recreation Reserve, also at 1 p.m. At 3 p.m, Drysdale Soccer Club entertains Deakin Ducks Gold at the Drysdale Sporting Precinct. And then we've got Bell Park taking on Barwon Underlights at the Bell Park Sports Club on Saturday evening at 5 p.m. Geelong Soccer Club has the bye. Hopefully, we're going to try one last time if we're going to be able to get Dale Harris back on the line. And we just are not having any luck, unfortunately. It's every time he seems to try and come on, he just freezes. So, unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to get a hold of Dale Harris tonight. Folks, next week we've got a very, very special program. Special episode sponsor, J Hill Bookkeeping from Lara. And Lara United will be our featured club next week on the Game of Two Halves podcast in the local game segment. I'm going to try and get Dale there. We can still see a still of Dale Harris there, but unfortunately we can't actually hear the man or can't even talk to the man. That's next week, folks, so do stay with us. It's going to be a great show, as we said. We're going to take a very, very short break. Hopefully when we return, we're going to have Dale Harris joining us. Don't go away, folks. Welcome back to the Game of Two Halves podcast, and hopefully we might get Dale Harris on the phone very, very quickly. If not, we might even try and just do this via audio link up. We're going to try and give him a call now and see if he's answering. We're trying to get him on the phone if we can. Doesn't seem like we're going to have any luck. So we're going to take a very short break. When we return, one last chance, we're going to try and get Dale Harris on the phone. Okay, we'll leave it there, and hopefully we've got Dale Harris on the thing. We've got him. Can we hear him? Dale, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, thank goodness, we finally got you. well, they always say good things come to all those that wait. Well, we've certainly waited, and we've finally got a hold of you, mate. Good to see you. How are you? First of all.
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you, buddy?
Yeah, really good. It's hard to believe that the football season now is already 8 rounds into the season. So it's almost approaching the halfway mark. It's been so quick. It's been so it's just sort of in the blink of an eye. We're already at the halfway mark. Let's have a look at the competition standings then. Let's first of all talk at the senior men's team. But first year in State 4. 3 wins, 1 draw, 4 losses, a respectable mid-table position at the moment. But what's your take on the first 8 games of the State League 4 season for Barwon Soccer Club?
Yeah, I'm struggling to hear you though. It's been a topsy-turvy start to the season. I guess it boils down to basically us trying to adapt to the State 4 system. The boys trying to change the State 5 mentality and trying to realizing that in State 5 we got away with playing for 30 minutes or for half an hour and we'd go on to win the game, whereas in State 4 you got to battle for that entire 90 minutes in order to achieve a point. And that's the hard truth that the boys had to learn early on, and hopefully now we've got that all sorted out.
Yeah. Has it been for you personally? Has it been a big learning curve? Was it something? You have coached at a higher level, but is it something that's really sort of taken you a little bit by surprise as well? Just the level of the level of competition, the level of intensity, if you like, or the difference in the level of competition.
To a certain degree, yes, but we always knew what we're in for. We're just trying to get the message across to the boys to try and raise for that 90 minutes that we won't say we struggled with, but we this last few games we haven't lost. We've basically tried to get that right, and I think it's slowly but surely coming right at the moment. But in terms of us not expecting that, we did as coaching staff, we did. A few of the players that have played at a higher level did. I think it was just a wake-up call for the young lads that were just so used to winning on a regular basis, whereas now we have to fight for every result.
Yeah. Let's have a look at the competition standings. This weekend you're coming up against Geelong Wolves. They're a very, very difficult side. One of the top 3-4 sides constantly in State League 4, and they've got a big budget from all accounts, and they've got a lot of huge resources there. But this game is a Green Gully reserve. Geelong Wolves, obviously the first time you're coming up against them this year, but did you come up against them in State 5? From memory, they were in State 5, weren't they, a year or two ago?
Yeah, they were, and we basically all squared with their results against them. I think we've played them 7 times. We've drawn 1, and we've won 3, and we've lost 3. So I think that's how it stands between us at the moment. So it's always a tough game, whether we're at home or away to them. They have got a lot of quality players. They're a very, very good side, and we just seem to. It's always a good game when we play each other.
Yep. Now, looking at Barwon as a whole, the club's doing very well at the moment. I think it's 3 men's teams in the local competition. The women's team's doing really, really well as well. Lots and lots of players. How are things travelling at Glovbal Reserve as a club as a whole?
As a club, it's going tremendously well. We've got a large female team there. There's quite a few female players, which last year we struggled for numbers. With the men's 3 men's teams, we've got over 67, about 70 Sunday League players registered. The state squads, we've got 2. The Miniroos, we had 2 weekends away at the Miniroos, which the senior players all went to go support and help out. So as a club, we really are growing together as a club, and only upwards from here onwards, I guess.
No, I'm just having a look at the the under 16, the under 14, the under 13. I think it's the Wallabies. Well, the under 16, 14, and 13 boys, they're all on top. The under 12 Wallabies, they're second at the moment. So all through the ranks, it seems to be like it's doing really, really, really well as far as the boys, the junior boys are going. The girls are doing not too bad as well. In the under 14, 15 Geelong League, Barwon are fifth out of 12 teams. So across the board, the juniors are now really starting to do very, very well. What's the medium to long term plan for that? Is it looking at entering teams in the Metro competition, which seems to be kind of the big trend at the moment with Geelong junior teams? Or is it just doing what you're doing at the moment, and as the players start to get better and start to look for higher competitions, Barwon as a club is happy just to see them develop their football elsewhere?
We do want to, how can I put it, provide a platform for our very talented players. We've got a 5-year plan based where we want to, as a senior team, obviously this year we're still testing the waters, we're still struggling a bit, but in the future we're hoping to achieve as much as possible and get up into a high enough division, whereas we don't lose our juniors. We want to give them a reason to stick around at the club. The higher the men's team are, the more we keep our most talented players. And I think that is a long-term plan in order for us to hold on to our best talented players, our senior team needs to be at a good level as well.
Yeah. Now, one of those players that did seek greener pastures and then has come back is your own son, Tristan Harris, is playing this year. How's he doing? And we've seen quite a few players over the past few years come back to Barwon, and they're looking for senior football, regular senior football, and they've come back bigger and better players, obviously. What's it like having your son there at Barwon this year, playing with you or playing under you? I should say.
It has its ups and downs. We still argue a lot about it, but I can't take credit for his signing. He responds better to Kieran Robinson, and Kieran brought him over after chatting to Kieran. Kieran brought him over. As a coach, I guess it's a bit unfair from me because I can be very harsh on him, being my son. It's me showing that I'm not showing any favoritism because he's my son, so I can be over the top harsh. And that's where Kieran steps in and he basically takes over with Tristan, and he's been a big help there, and Tristan responds better to him. A lot of fathers out there will tell you it's difficult coaching your own son because sometimes you bring it home, and then when you're at home, it can be chaotic trying to balance it.
Well, last week we had Ante Didelica from Barwon Soccer Club joining us, and there he was saying that right up until pretty much last year, he was coaching his own son at NPL junior level down in Melbourne, and now his son's gone off to Melbourne City, and now that's enabled him to go to Barwon. But yeah, he had something similar to say where he goes, it's very difficult sometimes, but you have to kind of, I think, draw the line of when you're a father, when you're a coach, and that the lines can be sometimes blurred, especially in a very, very crazy football family, that's for sure. But Dale, what's the plans with the rest of the season as far as the team is concerned? Are you looking at maybe recruiting a few players in the mid-season? Anything like that, or sticking with the current crop, or you're looking at getting some of the younger players coming up through the ranks? What's the sort of, now that you've kind of solidified yourself in State 4, what are the plans going forward for the rest of the year?
Well, the plans are, at the moment our main focus was, because we've had basically we'll call it a broken factory, and we finally repaired it, and we seem to be heading in the right direction on the field and off the field. The boys are a bit united. In terms of long term, we're trying to get, we want to get finish as high as possible. So our main focus is to be competitive for the entire 90 minutes every single game. Whether we recruit a few more players, we possibly might, because we have lost 2 players. One's gone in the last month. One's gone to Bell Park, and the other one's gone to Surf Coast. So there are vacancies, but in saying that, we've got some youngsters like young Will Mitchell. He's been around at the club since a 9-year-old, and he's an exceptional player, very gifted, very talented. We don't want to shut the doors on all our young players. We've got a 15-year-old that's come over to us from North Young Cruise. He had a senior game a couple of weeks ago. So we do want to bring in players, but we also don't want to shut the doors on the youngsters that we've got. The last thing we want to do is give them nowhere to go but the bench, and we want to give them as much game time. Otherwise, they're not going to really develop fully. But in certain areas, we might recruit more experienced players.
Yeah. Well, two important games over the next 2 weeks. First of all, Keilor Wolves this Saturday are down at Green Gully Reserve, and then the following week, Moonee Ponds United, who are just above you on the competition standings. So 2 really good results over the next 2 weeks. We'll see Barwon really, really push up the ladder and move a lot closer to the top echelon of the State 4 competition standings. But, mate, thank you very much for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. We were patient, we waited, but we finally got our man. It was great to have you on, Dale. Wishing you and everyone at Barwon Soccer Club all the very best for the rest of season 2023.
Thank you, Tonchi. Thanks for having me. See ya.
Good on you. Absolute pleasure. That was Dale Harris, the coach of the senior men's team at Barwon Soccer Club, joining us this week on the Game of Two Halves podcast. Folks, thank you very much for joining us and being a part of this week's show. We hope you really, really enjoyed it. Next week is going to be a big show in our local game segment. It will be featuring Lara United Football Club, courtesy of our episode sponsor, J Hill Sponsors, and a big shout out to our major sponsor for season 2023, Euro Football Star, without whom we would not be able to deliver this program each week. Thank you very much for being a part of tonight's show. We look forward to having your company again next Monday night on the Game of Two Halves podcast, powered by the Geelong Region Soccer Show. Good night and have a great week.